Well, it's getting closer. I am going to Norway. It's been a long time in the planning. I initially started looking at this maybe a couple of years before COVID. And actually in the year that COVID closed down all transport, that was the year we were about to go. Right on the cusp of booking ferries and everything. And along come the lockdown. Got cancelled, and it's taken a long time to get round to actually doing this. But I've done it. I'm there. My ferries are booked. My first hotel in Norway is booked. My last hotel in Norway is booked. And my last night on the continent is already booked into a hotel too. So that's it now. It's just a case of waiting and then going. Do have some concerns though. My Kawasaki would have done 150 miles before going on to reserve, and then it would be about another 50 or 60 before it actually ran out, coughed and died. The Honda is a bit different. It'll do reliably 125 miles before the last little square on the reserve starts flashing to say you need to do something. At that point there's about 4 litres left in the tank, which is about 32 miles. So you're looking at maybe around about somewhere between 150 and 160 miles between having a full tank of fuel and running out altogether. So I was sort of thinking, do I need to take a petrol can with me? Strap it on the back of the bike and sort of fill it up every time I fill the bike up, just to extend my range a little bit. So what I did, to get some idea of how much of a risk I was taking, I got Google Maps up on screen and I chose a route from Oslo up to Nordkapp, made it so it stayed on the E6, and then asked Google to give me a list of all the petrol stations along that route. This is the list of all of them that Google gave me. Now you'll find I've got a sequence from Oslo. So on my way up, the first petrol station I'll come to is at Bolleland. The second one is at Lillehammer. The 19th is at Honningsvåg. I'll put down the opening times next to that. So 0.01 to 23.59, that means it's a 24-hour petrol station. Now next to that I've put the distance from Nordkapp. So Oslo is 1321 miles from Nordkapp, and in each of the distances then I've been marked off by moving the endpoint in Google Maps on my route. And then next door to that I've worked out how many miles it is between the petrol stations. So if you look at the distances I've got to travel, when I get off the ferry at Oslo, the first petrol station along the route is Bolleland, and that's 56 miles away. That's fine. If I fill up with fuel immediately before getting on the ferry in Copenhagen, I could skip that particular fuel stop. There'll be enough to get me to Lillehammer. Fill up at Lillehammer, I'll get to Dovre without any trouble as well. Now I'm staying overnight at Dovre, and the site I'm staying at has a petrol station, a shop and a cafe. So filling up there I would easily get to Trondheim, but this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky. If I don't fill up at Trondheim, I won't get to Verdalsora. If I fill up at Trondheim, I will get to Verdalsora, but if I try to skip Verdalsora and stop next at Trones, I won't get there. If I get to Trones and skip getting a fill up at Trofers, I won't get to Mo i Rana. If I get to Mo i Rana and fill up and skip Forsk, I won't get to Ulvsvåg. So in principle, I can't skip any of these petrol stops. The tricky bit, of course, is that I can't skip them, but I might turn up and they're shut. It might say they're open 24 hours, but when I get there, they might still be shut. They might not have the fueler one, in which case I could get pretty badly stuck here. But once I get to Bardufoss, the situation changes. The petrol stations are more closely spaced, so if I missed out Vollen, I'd still get to Olderdalen. If I got to Olderdalen and skipped Storslet, I'd still get to Burfjord. If I got to Burfjord, if I skipped Alta, I'd still get to Olderfjord. And of course my last one then is at Honningsvag, which is 20 miles away from Nordkapp. So if I skipped the stop at Honningsvag, it'd be 40 miles to get to Nordkapp and back to Honningsvag. I could do that. So I could skip the Honningsvag on my way up. But bottom end of the scale, closer to Oslo in the south of the country, I can't afford to miss any of those petrol stops. Now, that would mean perhaps carrying a petrol can. The difficulty is I can't get on any of the ferries carrying a petrol can, whether it's empty or not. I'm not allowed onto the ferries with one. That's okay between Oslo and Narvik, or Ulsvag, sorry. After Ulsvag, there's a ferry which puts me on the peninsula where Narvik is. I won't be able to take that petrol can on that ferry with me, so I'll have to throw it away. However, when I was looking at this, I thought, well, if you look at the ride from Dovre to Trondheim, it's 126 miles. But there are small towns along the way, and I thought, do any of those have petrol stations that Google didn't pick out for me? So I started following the E6, and I found between Dovre and Trondheim there are 3 petrol stations. So I think most of the biggish, medium-sized towns will have a petrol station. If I get something like 80 miles out of a tank full of fuel and I haven't seen a petrol station, I'm pretty certain I can pull up and tell my sat-nav to find me the nearest petrol station, which might be off the E6, which would be why Google didn't pick it out for me, where I could go and get petrol. It means I don't think I need to worry about carrying a petrol can, so I'm not going to. What's it like to be retired? I am now officially a state pensioner. And I don't work. I left my job about 5 weeks ago, and I've got no intentions of looking for another job. I think the surprising thing I can say is that I've never been so busy. Those 5 weeks have flown like you wouldn't believe. Think about this, I used to only work 3 days a week, so in principle I was off work 4 days. But my 3 days in were long ones, so I started relatively early in the morning and finished relatively late in the evening. So those days were pretty much written off. There's nothing I could do other than come into work on those days. That means on the 4 days I was off, hospital appointments, doctor's appointments, picking up prescriptions, all of those things had to be done as a priority over everything else. So I kind of used to walk past things that I could see needed some work doing because I just did not have the time to do it. Could have done it, don't get me wrong, I could have done. And if I had done, I'd have worked myself into the ground, and I chose not to do that. Now it's different. Pretty much got endless days, pretty much got endless hours, and I'm finding myself walking around the house and seeing something I think, do you know what, I think I need to do something about that. That's how I do it. I walk around the house and I think, do you know what, that needs cleaning. So I get cloths out and I get cleaning fluids out and I clean it. seem to spend a lot of my time doing the cleaning, basically. I've no objections to that.